beginning of time, humans have been drawn to the ocean, pondering what could lie beneath. This week on Bold Assumptions, I'm going to be starting a new series where I just lay out theories I have on daily things that happen to everybody, things we think about, and things I think about, and why I think things work the way they do. This week, my focus is on giant sea creatures and the possibility of them being at the depths of the ocean. An important fact to create the foundation for this is the fact that the ocean's average depth is around 12,000 feet, or about 1.7 miles, while the deepest part of the ocean that we have currently found is about 36,000 feet, or 7 miles. Continually, as of the year of 2000, the NOAA, or National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, has estimated that upwards of 95% of the bulk of the ocean is unexplored, while 99% of the floor of the ocean is unexplored. This is because it's very hard to, get that far down the ocean and explore due to pressure limitations, costs, time, and all that stuff. So basically, we don't really know that much about the bottom of the ocean or the ocean as a whole. It's also important to clear up that more recent estimates by the NOAA place it at about 80% of the ocean left unexplored, which is still a great deal. In this week's theory, I'd like to propose a few reasons why I think the huge creatures that people like to dream up and think about in the ocean probably aren't there and probably don't exist. One of the first reasons why I believe that huge creatures at the bottom of the ocean is more fiction than fact is because of food availability at the bottom of the ocean. Obviously, with very little light getting down there and very little creatures to begin with that we know of for the most part, it's very hard for a giant creature of magnitudes of bigger than gray whales. How would they get so much food down there if things can't even grow or live due to lack of energy? To be 300 feet long, for example, which is not very much of a overestimate thinking about these huge creatures in sci-fi. How would they feed? How would they grow to that size? They need to somehow find creatures at least, I'd say, 1/10 of their size to feed on in order to sustain such magnitude. Obviously, you're not going to be feeding on plankton or something like that to get that big, 300 feet long. A fair counterclaim I'd like to put out, just to give people who oppose me a fair benefit of the doubt, is the fact that, in recent years we've found thermal communities of creatures at the bottom of the ocean where, not parts of the bottom of the ocean, where they're basically work in a similar way to photosynthesis, but they do it with heat from the Earth's core rather than heat from the sun. So they're living off of the Earth's core's heat and creating their own ecosystems, which obviously, could sustain creatures. I just don't know how big of creatures they could sustain. Reason number two why I believe that, there's no giant creatures in the bottom of the ocean is because of the types of creatures that we've already found that deep. Generally, when you find a deep sea creature, because of, limitations and how much pressure they need to sustain, they're usually gelatin based. Or gelatinous creatures, you got jellyfish, you got squids, things like that, to where they don't really have that many bones, if any, and they can sustain the pressure because, jelly and all that is very resilient. It can compress all this stuff and the body's left pretty much unharmed. According to the NOAA, every 33 feet that you go down in the ocean, on average, the pressure increases by about 14.5 psi. Pretty much, that deep, thousands of feet deep, you're going to be expecting huge magnitudes of pressure on your body. So bony creatures, like a shark, something like that, it's probably not going to hold up very well that deep in the ocean. Obviously, it's not too far out of limitations, however, to think that maybe, if a creature were to just live down that deep after years and years of evolution, perhaps their bones have evolved to have more compressive capabilities. Maybe it's more gelatinous or rubber bone structure. Maybe they don't need bones at all, but I'm just thinking for something to be that long or that huge, you're going to need a lot of structure to hold you together. Most the tiny creatures that don't have bones, usually they're pretty small because, you need bones to keep your body rigid and everything. So I'm assuming, they would have to evolve some special structure to hold them together to be that large, which is pretty rare. But if they have evolved that, and if that is a real thing, that'd be a great thing to study, for many applications in life. One of the final reasons why I, don't think that giant sea creatures could be roaming at the bottom of our ocean is just based on which creatures people usually say are at the bottom of the ocean. Looking back on stories, you got Moby Dick, and the thing about Moby Dick is he's a giant whale, and whales as a whole, they can't go very deep because of oxygen limitations. They need to come back up to resurface for air. So if you have like a Moby Dick roaming at the bottom of the Mariana Trench or something, obviously he's not going to be able to come up and come back down without being noticed. Like, we would obviously know. We would have seen him. Somebody would have spotted. Things like that. Going on, I know that there was a movie called The Meg or something like that recently came out, where people were talking about how a megalodon was bounded in the Mariana Trench, and that finally, like, research, I don't really know a lot about it, but I know it's something along the lines of people found some old extinct species of shark. The thing about that is, usually sharks, because I would compare a megalodon most closely to a great white today. Great whites generally swim around 3,000 feet at the most, like on the high end. So to be, 12,000 feet deep in the bottom of the Mariana Trench, I don't really see it that like realistic for a megalodon to be swimming that 4 times as deep as a great white. Obviously, not all sea creatures are whales or sharks, but generally when we think of huge sea creatures, there's some form or rendition of a whale or shark. I mean, obviously you have like the serpentine creatures, which, they potentially could exist. For all we know, they could be somewhere at the bottom. But again, with food limitations and everything, I just see it as very unrealistic. In all, it's probably more so fiction than fact. You're not going to have giant sharks, whales, serpentine creatures probably at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Or even just the bottom of the ocean that we haven't explored. I would say that if we do find something as that big, like a colossal squid or something, they're probably going to be more jellyfish or squid-like than shark-like. So, moving forward, giant sea creatures probably are going to be more gelatinous and things like that. They're not going to be carnivorous, huge creatures that could like completely disrupt everything. Anyways, it's been Bold Assumptions. This was Bold Theories, a new series I wanted to try out. All sources I use to get some of the facts that I use in this video will be in the description down below. Thank you for your support. It's been me.